So in this video, we're going to talk about factoring using the AC method when the A value is not 1. So remember, with standard form, we have ax squared plus bx plus c, and the A term is in front of the x squared. So in this example, A is 2, A is 3, A is 4. All right, so we're going to start off the same way we did when the A value is 1, but then there's going to be some other steps. All right, so for this first example, it's on page 5. A is 2, C is negative 6. So A times C would be 2 times negative 6, which is negative 12. Well, what can you multiply to get negative 12 that will add together to give you a negative 11 in the middle? Well, it would be a negative 12 and a positive 1. Now, we cannot just go straight into parentheses here, because if we did, like, don't write this because it's going to be wrong. All right, if I went straight into parentheses, I would have said x minus 12, x plus 1. Well, if I multiply that, I get x squared, 1x, negative 12x, and a minus 12. Well, when I combine like terms, x squared minus 11x minus 12, that's not the same thing I started with. So we can't go straight into parentheses. All right, so we have to do something else. And I like to teach it with the grouping method, but there's a lot of different methods. So you can Google some different methods and you may like something else better, but this is my preference. All right, so what you would do is you take this middle term right here and you're going to replace it with these two factors, but with an x. All right, so I'm going to keep the first term, 2x squared, but instead of a minus 11x, I'm going to put minus 12x plus 1x, and then I'm going to keep the minus 6. All right, so I've replaced the middle term with my two factors. Now I'm going to split the problem into two groups, the first group and the second group. I'm going to look at the first group and I'm going to figure out what is my GCF. So the GCF would be a 2x. So I'm going to factor out a 2x. And what I'm left with is x minus 6. Now on the right side, I have to do a GCF there as well. So I can't factor anything out, but I have to factor something. So I'm going to just divide out a 1. Now I have to write the 1 down, and then what's left is an x minus 6. So whatever your GCF is, don't forget you have to write it down, and then whatever's left over you put in the parentheses. Now you'll notice that the parentheses are the same. That should happen every single time. So as long as they're the same, you could feel pretty confident that you've done it correctly. If they're not the same, then you have to revisit what you did. So either you messed up here and picked the wrong factors, or you messed up with your GCFs. All right, now whenever the parentheses are the same, you write that down one time, and then whatever's left over, 2x and a positive 1, you'll write that down in parentheses. Since this was a positive, this is a plus. If it was a negative, you would put a subtraction. All right, so these are the two factors. In example 3 on page 5, the AC method, you would have A times C. 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. What can you multiply to get negative 24 that adds together to give you 2? Well, let's see, it would be 4 times 6. But the only way to get a positive 2 would be for the 6 to be positive and the 4 to be negative. Negative 4 and 6 add up to give you 2. Negative 4 times 6 multiplies to give you the negative 24 that you need for the AC term. So I'm going to replace my middle term with these two factors, but with an x. So I'm going to write down, I'm going to keep the 3x squared, replacing the 2x with a minus 4x and a plus 6x, and then a minus 8. And if you had flip-flopped these, just like over here, if I had flip-flopped them, it wouldn't matter and my work would look a little different, but I would still get the same answer in the end. All right, so I'm going to split my problem into two, and I'm going to do a GCF on both sides. So on the left side, I can factor out only an x. So I write the x down, and I'm left with a 3x minus 4. On the right side, I can factor out a 2. So I write down a 2, and I'm left with 3x minus 4. Double check that your parentheses are the same, which they are, so that gives me confidence that I've done it correctly. So I'm going to keep the 3x minus 4, and then I have an x with a positive 2, so x plus 2. And those are my two factors. All right, in the last one, my AC method would be 4 times 1, so 4 times 1 is 4. What could I multiply to help me get a 3? Well, the only way would be to have a positive 4 and a negative 1, but the problem is even though that will add up to give me 3, it doesn't multiply to give me a positive 4. So that means that this doesn't work, and there's no other factors that will work. So for this one, I would say that it is prime.